he's got that new documentary out on the immediate family, which is all these bands, all these
Yeah.
musicians that made all these records.
Uh-huh.
And he's got 5 Grammys, 130 platinum records.
I know.
So my story with him is the producer I worked with him before for 40 years. We're friends with it, and I met about a long time ago when I just finished recording a United Western with a little demo thing I did for Robert Stigwood. I met the manager for Buffalo Springfield, which I didn't know that was Val Garay. They're best friends, and so that whole thing turned from that till years later. I work in the film business too, and so does this other gentleman. Dickie Davis is his name, and then this last record, I said I really want to get that sound from '70s whatever sound. Andrew Gold was exam, Leonard Ron, and that's all those same players that he's this documentary that just came out. I just saw it a couple of days ago it's about called The Immediate Family, and Val's good friend and attorney, David Helfand, is one of the executive producers. He's also my attorney. So it's a big, interesting little family that's developed, and we're all good friends. And that's the kind of the story. And but I learned a lot. Val is not. He's not your average producer guy. He has something he's getting at, and he can get it. And that's what I learned, because I've been making records a long time, and I'd never bumped into anyone who just knew how to just go straight for it, because that's his gig. Whatever that sound is his thing. And that's what this documentary is kind of about. And I didn't know the whole story until I saw the documentary. So now I know the story. And the beginning was with Peter Asher, and Peter was with Apple Records, all this and that. So they go way back, and Val's all part of that. And I'm sure, I think it's better if we let him talk, because I'm glad to be the latest thing that came out of it. The record is, signed with Deco Records, which is interesting. My name's Deco. It's interesting, but it's not the same spelling, but it's interesting. They're interesting, great people. They seem to be willing to promote, and they have interesting ways of doing it. And of course, this is one. And of course, I work with Chip Regari is how you say it, but he's been great with me, and he's all along been a big part of this whole process since before, when it was going to be picked up by a different record label, and there's a reason why that kind of fell through. But now here we are, and Deco is a good company. It's a legacy company with a lot of famous. I'm glad for that. I feel better about that. I'm just the new guy with of course, I'm not new at it, but it was a wonderful fit for me. I thought this is perfect, and so it was nice when it came together for all that. And so yeah, it's still really in early infancy of promoting this record. So thanks for listening to us and seeing what it's about. The record's been played overseas in different stations, and all, of course, with the connections between we all have, it's gotten airplay, and it's a good sounding record, and it's as Chip says, it's got a sparkle to it. It's not a grungy, it's not that there's anything wrong with that style, but it's more a Beatle-esque, I guess, because of that thing that was the era, right? It was more of that Moody Blues, all that stuff. Of course, we always talk about my influences, which would be, of course, we can get around to it, but it would be like, of course, early Anthony Newley, David Bowie, which is one of those things came together. And then, I've worked with and studied music a lot. And when I remember hearing, I worked with Frank Sinatra, and he had a movie out. I worked in movies as well, so I worked with him on this movie called Sinatra. He talked about how he's trying to find his sound. He kept trying to find his sound. And then he was listening to, trumpet players and horn players, and he thought, oh yeah, they're holding the notes out longer. And then, so the same thing with me. I thought, well, that's what I'll do. And then I thought, well, look what this Anthony Newley guy was doing, all this interesting kooky stuff. And of course, that's where Bowie got all this, when he finally came through, that was where the chops came from. And I thought, there you go, and then I figured this too, with all due respect, since these people are all kind of not here anymore, it's a free range to go ahead and pick and choose, from people who I loved, and without you're not stepping on them. It's more like a nod, tip of the hat to these people, and that's a lot of that you'll find in this record, and of course I wrote all the songs and I sang all the songs, and so that's a part of what it looks like how it works nowadays. That people they call it one-stop shopping. If you got one guy, you got a better chance because they can bring in, like I said, the immediate family or whatever. You can bring in a band of great players and not waste time and make a great record. Although the
Well,
guys, here we go. Hey
yeah,
Val,
and
I see you.
Hi.
well, and I
How
was
was your
looking at
golfing?
What?
Golfing? Was it golfing?
No, no, no. I
Yeah.
was we were out in the barn setting up
good.
the drum set, getting ready to do some stuff.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for coming in. Hi,
Yeah,
Well,
no problem.
I'm Kelly Deco.
and on that note about the drums, and Kelly, you just referenced that in about the sound, the
Yeah.
sparkle you were
Uh-huh.
referencing what Chip had been talking about, and that was something I noticed every single track. I'm like, wow, that drum part. I mean, all of the instrumentation, but that really stands out to me. And both of you can comment on this as you wish. What are you looking for when you're trying to get that? And we don't need to break it down specifically to that particular sound effect, but what and that processing, however, the miking, etc. But what is that sound? How can you easily describe what you're going for when you say like the 70s sound? And a lot of us get what that means, but what's another way of putting it where you're trying to achieve that versus, oh, sure, we could just program something here and just find a going for something with that quality?
Well, first of all, you're talking about a live drummer versus in today's world, a lot of drums are programmed. And they're programmed from drum samples, which are sort of one-dimensional because there's no real overtones and no leakage between parts of the drum kit. So when Kelly came to me to do this record, he wanted that classic 70s sound, which I helped invent that. So, it was just a matter of doing what I always do, getting a great drummer, which he did. We used my drum kit, which DW built for me as a studio recording kit. And I've never taken it out of my studio, but I took it to this studio for this project because I know what it sounds like and I know what kind of sound I can get out of it. And a lot of it is based on the type of heads you use on the drums to get that period of sound. It's also based on the size of the drums that you use. Like most of the drummers in the 70s, late 70s and 80s all used 24-inch kick drums. Now a lot of them use 22-inch kick drums. Well, you get more attack out of a 22-inch kick drum, but you get less bottom end out of it. So in that period, and they also had a specific style of snare drum sound that they used, which is very dead. I think that Ringo Starr was the guy who came up with the idea in the beginning of just, he did it by accident, I think, but he taped his wallet to the snare drum, which kills the top head and makes it just sort of like that kind of fat, gushy sound versus a ringy, hard crack. Okay. So that was kind of the outline for this style of this record, because that's what Kelly Deco asked me to do. He wanted to get that period of sound.
There you
and
go.
So that's how you create it. And then you get a great drummer, which he provided, and away you go.
The quality of artists on it, I was looking through their credits, looking at the back credits and then looking up what they have been doing and see among the backing vocalists, some pretty, I mean, I could go through the whole list, but look at the CD, Google accordingly, look up their websites, etc.
Yeah.
So given the caliber of musician, how'd you find them? How'd you come across these folks?
Well,
Well,
Kelly found all of them. I just showed up to produce it and record the record. He had the band already organized and rehearsed and everything.
yeah, we had a band for a long time since I worked with a producer that is a good friend of Val's, Nick Tenbrook, in the early 80s through up till recent. Of course, I think that they work together now even. So we had a band, and then as time goes on, you lose people, things happen to people. So I was intending to try to have the same group to kind of do a round around, or here we are still alive. And that didn't happen because they weren't alive and things like that. But it's a big town, and we did a lot of looking around, and we found great people. And then we tried them out, and sure enough, we put a few together. And then first couple of rehearsals, we had a different group, and then some people. Well, COVID came, and people got COVID, and a lot of people got COVID. They said, "No, I'm not doing anything until this is over." But we did finally get a little gang, and we rehearsed a lot.
And
It's
wasn't it the bass player who was sick through the entire thing?
He was, yeah. So we,
The
yeah,
bass
and
player was sick the entire time we did this record.
yeah. So there was a, there was struggle, and people had to choose to continue or wait, for COVID because it was in full swing. And we rehearsed the typical way that I've always been told to do this is you rehearse the heck out of the band and then you go in the studio and go from there. So I'd rehearsed the band for months in advance, and of course, I wrote the songs. They all came to me music first. I write all the music first, and then I wait to see what the influence of what the idea is going to be. And the idea of this record, it was what I call Victorian futurism. And then I picked on my influences, which would have been go back to Sinatra, Anthony Newley, David Bowie, Jim, Van Morrison, I should say, Moody Blues, different people that were, and then of course the live shows that Meatloaf was doing. And I just thought about that and let it all filter through. And they came one at a time. And I had gotten back together with my high school sweetheart. And so love came into my mind, and I was able to capture, I think for me and for men a lot, it's hard to talk about love because it seems like a far distant thing. But if there's something right in front of you that says, oh yeah, that's the love part, you can plug it in. And so the songs were easy for me to write. And then after I wrote them, got together, and I was lucky enough to, like you say, to get with Val. And again, it was, I really did want to.
Why were you lucky?
No, it was interesting because I really wanted to get, I have this midnight special recording of Andrew Gold doing Lonely Boy. And I kept thinking, man, that is the sound. What is that, And it was so raw and fresh, clear, but powerful. And then and then when I spoke with Nick Tembrook, who's the other producer, he said, well, Val, basically invented that sound. And then sure enough, he did. And so that's what I found out is this man is actually the man who made that sound. And he was able to do it because he has a process that he does it and he gets it. And that's what happened. I was really lucky for that because I love it. It's exactly what I wanted. And that doesn't usually happen. Again, I've recorded for a lot of years. I also work in the film business. I made a lot of movies and worked in a lot of different capacities. And it doesn't usually just work out where you get that thing, but it does sometimes. And for me, this time it did. And again, that was, we had the Leslie Fuller and the background singers. We had, through the connections that people had, we got great musicians. And then, of course, great recording and engineering through Val and his team, and I'm really happy about it. And now in the end, a great kind of a legacy record company, Deco, has picked it up, and now it's with them, and I'm really happy. So it's a good place to be.
It's pretty bizarre, right? Kelly
Yeah,
Deco,
no, it is.
Deco Records.
Yeah, that's I would
Different spelling, but it's pretty bizarre.
It is really, yeah.
Deco on Deco.
That's exactly right.
It's not a common thing, no, not at all.
No.
So that time you actually spent in the studio, and you're both in there, both doing the recording process, doing the production. So Val and Kelly take us into the studio thing. Well, how does that work? You're sitting there and you are producing this album. And of course, you've had obviously the extensive engineering. I mean, you just do the Discogs thing, you see everything there. Describe the process of working on this, on Constellation, working with Kelly, working with the other artists or the musicians.
Well,
starting with.
But honestly, realistically, it wasn't any different than anything I've done for the last 40 years. I mean, you listen to the songs, you kind of get a sense from Kelly what the style of it and what kind of edge you want on it. And then I just do what I do. Once I get a sound on everybody, you just start recording tracks. And that's what we did. We worked for 5 days and we cut how many songs? Like 12?
11. Yeah.
How many?
Well, there's 11 on the record. I don't know if we have more.
But we cut more than 11.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So,
and
the thing is, it's Val's sound. That's what he did what he just does. To him, it was just like making breakfast. It's like, but for me, and a lot of people don't realize that it's not that simple to make a good breakfast unless you've done it a million times, and or whatever it might be. And this man has done this exact, the sound, the right sound, the sound I wanted, that clear, powerful sound, so many times. And then again, he brought in things to make sure it would happen, like he says, the drums and modules and bits and pieces. But that's that's brilliant, and that seems to be lost nowadays. Everyone believes they can make your own creme brulee or whatever. Good luck. I mean, I don't think you can. I think there's
Are
experts.
you guys, both of you, are either of you aware of Muse AI, this new program that is on the it's a program that basically does the same thing as All Music, but it's way more extensive because it's done through artificial intelligence, and it goes back through your entire career and scans every single thing that you've done in your career, and then comes up with how many streams you've created.
I may have heard of it, possibly.
well,
It's kind of ringing a bell.
Here's mine. This is the total.
Put it up again, please. If you lost it, put it up again, Val.
If anyone if they're listening to the audio podcast version of it, it's 2,286,000 or million, sorry, 49,772.
Yeah.
As of now, as of the recording.
And then it shows you every single song that you've put out.
Oh, look, there's mine. I'm kidding.
You're in there, but it's, it's based on the stream. So the more streams, and the thing that's really bizarre to me is the top of the list is Betty Davis Eyes with 770 million.
Right
and
on.
Second on the list with 400 million, which is almost half, is December 63, Oh What a Night, which I did with the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
And then the third at 200 million is Summer Breeze. And fourth is Blue Bayou, which was Linda's biggest hit single, and it's only 134 million.
Well, that's just so far, but those are all great songs.
Jeez.
Wow, this is a great interview.
But isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
2,286,049,772.
Well, there you go. There's your legacy right there.
Can you wrap your mind around something you've been involved with being listened to 2+ billion times?
No, because when you look at the hallway in my house that has the gold records in the hallway, because there's like over 100 of them. And, to me, it was just, it's what I do every day. People say to me, well, you're 81 years old. Why are you still working? And I said, because what I do isn't work. Yeah. I have fun every day. I love what I do. So why would I want to not do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'll stop when they make me,
Yeah. Nobody's gonna make you. Yeah.
Kelly, what you've essentially said, like the Andrew Gold sound. If you could choose 5, and maybe I'm just picking an arbitrary, nice roundish number. You know what I mean? 5 of Ken's works, whether it's albums, songs, whatever. What are the 5 that you most admire? Again, counting Andrew Gold, so that would be one of the 5.
Well, Andrew Gold, that was his second album, and it was a great record. I mean, really a great record. But my favorite album, I think, all time that I've done is JT.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's an absolute masterpiece. And I'd say the second one that I did in terms of production quality and sound quality was Prisoner in Disguise. And then after that, it's a myriad of hundreds of records,
That itself is amazing. And what about this new movie that's coming out, The Immediate Family, now, that tells about these people who all played with you and made all these great
Well,
records?
it's funny because I'll tell you the story in that. First of all, I've known Denny Tedesco since the 60s. Well, he was born in the 70s, and when I first met him when he was a little kid, because I knew his father, Tommy Tedesco, who, when I was signed to Lou Adler as an artist on Ode Records, and we went in to cut our first single at Western Studio 3, where Lou Adler did everything, there was the Wrecking Crew. We didn't even get to play on our own record, even though we were all accomplished musicians. So it was kind of a shock, but that's when I first met Tommy Tedesco. And just to give you an idea how good the quality of musicianship was in the band that we were in, that was signed to Blue Adler, the guitar player, when the band broke up, went on to become Gordon Lightfoot's guitarist for 37 years and played on every record he made. So it was, and Eddie Ho was the drummer who played for the Mamas and Papas and the Modern Folk Quartet and all these famous acts in the 60s. So that's when I met him. And so we always had kind of an interesting relationship. And then when he decided to do this film with the immediate family, which I've worked with Waddy and Danny Korchmeyer and Russ Kunkel and Leland Sklar on probably 50% of the gold albums of the 100 plus that I have, and they played on all of them. So I know these guys like I know, my brother. I mean, really that well. And so, and through the marriages and divorces and, all the, mishigas that everybody goes through. So when you look at the movie, and the director said to me, here's where I have a problem, and this is why I'm coming to you, because you're a producer and an engineer and you've worked with these guys on that level. He said, the problem I have is that anybody I interview and ask them about them, they all go, the fucking greatest. The fucking greatest. I mean, the greatest guitar player, the greatest drummer, the greatest bass player, so on and so forth. He said, but why are they the greatest? And I said, I can tell you why. And I broke it down player by player. Waddy Wachtel. You want an eighth note guitar player, play eighth notes? There's nobody better. You want a soloist that's going to play the guitar solo in Oh Sherry, or the guitar solo in all of Stevie's records, or the guitar solo in Only the Lonely, or all these memorable guitar solos that he played? That's the guy. You want the most musical virtuoso bass player? That's Leland Sklar. You want a drummer who plays like he wrote the songs? That's Russ Kunkel. You want a songwriter who understands songwriting and production and can play great guitar and has a very inventive guitar mind, like you listen to the guitar horn stuff he did on Boys of Summer and that album with Don Henley, Danny Korchmeyer. So that's why I ended up in the movie. The movie starts, and in like a minute or less, I'm in everybody's face talking about this. And I must be in it like 10 times, and it's because of that. And that's why he came to me.
I got to interview Danny Korchmeyer about that, right? About the immediate family project when it was first announced. Oh gosh, it's been
5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. And I need to watch that. Thanks for giving me the heads up on that.
Oh my God, the movie is phenomenal. I mean, I saw it on the premiere night over at the Mann's Chinese Theater, because I had to go because of the being in the film and naming the credits of the movie, and I had to do the red carpet for them because they asked me to. But they sold that out in about 11 minutes, and then they decided to have a second show, which is what Kelly bought tickets to. And it's a phenomenal movie. I mean, it's won 25 awards, on all these film festivals.
Wow.
And it's just such a great, in-depth, the Wrecking Crew was the 60s. The Immediate Family was the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah, there you go. One more thing I want to mention, that when I got, and the band was ready to go rehearse and play and record with Val, when I mentioned to them that I think everyone got better, just because they figured this is going to be one shot that in their life to go ahead and try to do the best they can. And I think I was even telling the guitar player, Fernando Perdomo, that he needs to be able to play like Waddy Wachtel. And I said, even though nobody can, but
Fernando is a great guitar player. I mean, he's just different style completely. He's more of a band style player, whereas Waddy's more of a studio guy.
Well, anyways, obviously Waddy is great, and you can really see that.
But so is Fernando. Fernando's great in his world.
Yeah, there you go. So we had a good time doing that, and thank you, Val. I really appreciate it, and thanks for coming and doing these interviews as well. I really appreciate trying to get this record out there.
Last question for you guys, and you each have your own take. Favorite song on Constellation, and you've talked about some of you talked about in other interviews, and I've seen some, but if you had to choose one, at least where you're at right now, however the songs are living with you, Kelly first, Val second, and I know it's like the classic, choose one of your children then you can't choose. I sometimes get that as the response, but if you had to choose one, what's your favorite off of Constellation? Kelly, you first.
Oh man. There's a song called Constellation on the record. And I think that's my favorite because just overall it kind of tells my story and tells a story about love, and it all kind of works out. So that's what I'm gonna say that one. All the songs are very personal to me, and a lot of them are about love and deaths in my family, and looking out into the universe for what else could be out there, including other experiences and other universes in life. So a lot of that is projecting, but
Constellation is your pick.
yeah, that's my pick. Thank you.
Hey, take your sunglasses off because I want to see your face.
I do have eyes.
Yeah, because it's a little better that way than looking at a bug.
It's too early for that.
Like you look like a bug with those things on.
Thank you.
My favorite song is, but I'm always going towards this kind of stuff that gets on a radio, but I like Automat Girl.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Good song about a painting.
Yep.
Solid choices all. I mean, it's a good album, and I would encourage anyone to listen to it. Constellation, it's out now. Kelly Deco, Val Garay. This has been an honor getting to talk to both of you. Really, really cool. Will there be another project? I'll leave that. That's a rhetorical question, but who knows? Maybe there'll be another one at some point. But at least this is out there in the universe, and we can listen to it right now. Thank you both for taking time to talk about this today, and all the best going forward.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. It's been a
You're welcome.
pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.